Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up comedian and host of Bachelorette Recap, a guy's review, which starts June 7th, 2021. But in the meantime, we got some stories, some spring cleaning, some topics we're going to talk about today. As you guys know, it is the off-season. Some weeks there's some crazy information, some Dale and Claire photos, and Rachel Kirkconnell's back with Matt James. Well, right now, there really isn't too much going on, so let's jump into the weird and the irreverent, which is where I strike best. All right, folks? So if you don't mind and like my content, please bump a Harrison on top of that like button, hit the subscribe, and at the end of this video, you can click a link below and join the mailing list. I'll be sending out my first newsletter on Friday. As you guys know, I accidentally deleted my newsletter that I had spent 15 years putting together, all those email contacts you get from all of life. I hit the delete button accidentally the other night, and I'm telling you what, it kind of feels nice. We're starting fresh. So thanks to the 600 plus new people yesterday who re-signed up and helped me right that wrong. Now, let's talk about Bekah Martinez. I've got her pulled up here on her Instagram stories. We're going to play an Instagram story of her talking about hitting a bear and working on a weed farm in Humboldt County and being on the missing police report. She's interesting. She's a breath of fresh air. I'll tell you what, when I first saw Bekah on Ari's season of The Bachelor, I liked her, but then I was a little weary of her outspokenness, which again, that's just on me. Sometimes you hear someone come in all fiery at 21 years old, and it's like, all right, just live a little bit. This might be the old 36-year-old in me, but it's like, all right, what do you know? You know what I mean? And she's still only 26. She's so young, and she's got a whole amazing life. She's already put together several kids, a hit podcast. She's doing well. She wears her heart on her sleeve, shares everything with her Instagram, probably very abrasive. I'm sure people in the comment section, well, I don't know about her. Listen, you got to appreciate people that dance to the beat of their own drum. You just have to. And she is very, very unique. I'll tell you which favorite TV show character I want to relate her to. But in the meantime, let's just go through this real roller coaster of emotions here on her Instagram story timeline. She starts off here ranting in the car.
For real though, I do love my car. I feel so safe in here. It's a climate controlled sanctuary. I'm at peace. I can play music as loud as I want when my children aren't in here. Bless.
So she says, for real though, I would hate living in New York City because people don't really drive cars there, right? I'll tell you what. Having moved from New York City to Los Angeles, when you live in New York City, you have to plan your whole day out. In the winter, you have to pack an extra pair of socks because you might step into a puddle that looks 1 inch thick and then you just fall down into your knees and get lost in a city slush of waste. But I have to tell you something. There is nothing better than catching a train in New York City and just like zoning out. I feel like that's what it must feel like to drive a Tesla, where you don't have to pay attention to the car in front of you if you can just put on auto drive, or maybe you just white knuckle it and get nervous. I don't really know what it's like. It must be nice out there having a Tesla. But yeah, what a mom! It's such a mom thing to talk about the serenity of her car. I remember, when I used to, as a teenager growing up, my mom would just sit in her car after getting the mail and like wouldn't come inside after. And I'm always like, Mom, why are you sitting in your car? And like what I didn't realize, and I'm sure moms can agree with this, is that was like her moment to herself to just sit in the car before she has to deal with the chaos known as me and my sister. So yeah, it's and especially living in Los Angeles, you have to have a sort of Zen shield around the nonsense that is this large metropolis city. But as you guys know, my car's been under attack. Had my car battery stolen 3 times, license plates stolen, and someone dented into the side of the door yesterday. Oh, I'm sorry, a few weeks ago. But I'm kind of at that point too, where it's like, if someone steals one more wiper blade from my car, I'm just gonna leave the keys on the hood and move on with my life. You know what I mean? All right, let's move on from here. So she posts, "This is my car. I love it. We've made it through a lot together. I even accidentally hit a bear with this car, and we all survived." All right, we'll get into that story. You can't just say, you don't get to just say you hit a bear and not move on. I'm sure she got 1,000 DMs like, "Can we talk more about the bear?" So here she is. Let me turn the audio off on this post. Working out. First, here's a sped up video of me doing whatever this is called for the first time. I think I need to work on my form. Yeah, I never knew what this workout was, but it's women always complain that men hit on them at the gym. And it's like, we don't want to be hit on at the gym. And it's like, listen, I totally understand that in my rational mind, but then you see people doing this like power thrust sort of weight-resistant bang move. And it's like, how can you not? Listen, I understand. Gentlemen, if she's got headphones in, don't wave, don't talk, let her do her thing. You can't hit on women at the gym. I know. So Getting High in Long Beach. This is my favorite t-shirt right now because it's the best climbing play on words. Oh, I get it, Getting High. Yeah, well, it's not really so much a play on words. I guess it's a double entendre. All right, let's go through this. This isn't what we came here for. So she's promoting some Mama Bear.
I'm here at the gym all day working on emails and other work stuff because the kids are home with Julie, and if I try to do any of this stuff at home, I'm not going to get any of it done. But I just camped out in the yoga room at the gym to do my therapy session. Gray and I are seeing a couples therapist now, but we're each doing one-on-one session with her. And oh my God, that shit is emotionally and mentally exhausting after you get out of one of those sessions. And today I just got to share a little bit of some of the sexual trauma that I've only recently realized that I endured, and sort of how small little sexual trauma instances sort of have built up to the point where it's now affecting me. And anyway, I am feeling exhausted.
Okay, enough of the heavy stuff. Who wants to hear the story of me hitting a bear? So she got a 97%. People want to hear the story about her hitting a bear. All right, so here we go. Let's start on the hitting the bear story. And by the way, shout out to you, Bekah Martinez, for being, seriously brave to use your platform to talk about different sexual traumas and issues that you've been through. So I think so often than not, people think if there isn't some sexy headline or some crazy detrimental story, that it's just part of life and you move on. But little different issues can sort of atrophy us. They can atrophy us to sort of react a certain way and to form this exoskeleton. And sometimes we stop letting people in because of the little things that have happened to us along the way. Therapy is a great way to get that out. Of course, it's May. It's Mental Health Awareness Month. So take care of yourself, whether it's just picking up a yoga practice or having a best friend to talk to, or of course, seeing a mental health expert. It's a great way to just deburden yourself of the issues you've had in your past, which you might not even know have traumatized you. We're all traumatized over different things. So shout out to Becca. Good for you for sharing that on your social media. So here she goes. She says, basically, to make a very long story short, I was broke after The Bachelor, and I had to quit my nanny jobs to leave for the show for almost 2 months. I needed to make some quick cash, so I went with a new friend to work on a weed farm trimming for a couple weeks. So as this works out, for those of you who don't know, weed has been sort of legalized in most states, and of course, we've got an issue with it where more black men have been arrested and are in the prison system because of weed. Throughout the past, this war on drugs. And of course, now there are more white-owned weed companies. So now that people know they can profit from it, it's a whole issue we're trying to work through. We got to work through this. We got to legislate some ways to work through this. My thought is, just my random political thought, butterfly effect. Whatever you are arrested for after you were arrested for possession of weed should either be expunged or the crime should be lessened, because you never know if you would have committed those crimes if you didn't already have a record. You know what I mean? You might have had a normal job after. You might not have gotten into drugs. All right, I digress. I'm just saying, smart idea. Dave Neal running for Senate. Not going to happen. So anyway, she needed to make some money. You got to trim the, it grows, and they have trying to trim the weeds and whatever. It's a whole process during the harvesting season. People can make some quick, good money doing that. I had a friend in college who grew weed on his own. He worked he was a horticulture major. I went to a school that had a big farming division, University of Rhode Island, and this is what they did. It was illegal back then, but then when you look at it and break it all down, you're like, that's a dandelion. Come on, what's the big deal? I know someone's going to comment, weed's the gateway drug for... Listen there, Footloose. Dancing's for the devil. Just calm down, all right? Have some weed. You seem a little tense. Pop an edible. You'll be okay. So anyway, she goes up to... the farm was up in Humboldt County, and there were lots of dark, windy roads. Okay. I was driving, and out of nowhere, a bear ran straight into the road. I slammed on the brakes, and he hit the front of my car and slid alongside my driver's side door and window, and then kept running and took off into the forest. I was probably going about 30 to 40 miles an hour, and in that moment, I thought he was going to come through the windshield and kill me. This was right after I pulled off on the side of the road because I was in total shock. Now, here's the deal. If you do run into a bear in real life, not in your car, you got to get as big as possible and yell at them. They're very skittish. Bears are, for the most part, very skittish. You know, they're scared of you. They don't like you. They are very curious and very adorable. I went camping sort of in the same area here near the redwoods, and there were some black bears and bears of color, and they would tell you not to have any food in your car because the bears will try to get that food. And also, I mean, imagine, so they told us don't have any food in the car, but we were camping with my 50-pound basset hound, which to a bear is like a bowl of chicken wings with some blue cheese. So the whole night I'm just sitting there like with a machete next to me, just ready to fight a bear. Very adorable. We did see a bear on our camping trip, but it wasn't that close to us. And they're like trash pandas. They want the easy food. They're not trying to fight anyone. Although, don't get me wrong. I'm sure there are some stories of aggression. So here she is with the missing police report. Have you seen this girl? Contact Humboldt County Sheriff with any info. Of course, nice looking girl there. Her name's Bekah Martinez. And yes, this was the time my family thought I was missing. The girl I was with got kicked off the farm, and I had been using her phone to stay in contact with my parents because it was the only one that had service. She got mad I wouldn't leave with her when she got kicked out, so she texted my mom that I was being held hostage by meth heads with knives and then stopped replying. Well, first of all, that's ridiculous. She did say this was a newfound friend. Listen, the marijuana industry, it does attract some interesting folks. So this friend of hers clearly had an issue. So this was after she was on The Bachelor. She had been kicked off, but of course this was months before the show airs, so no one actually knows who she is. And she was like 6 or 7 days into being in Humboldt County when her parents finally called to make sure she was okay. And of course she had no service and no cell phone. But this is all new information. She never shared about this in the past. Maybe she was embarrassed. My poor parents were actually traumatized. This was Dad to Becca, November 18th, 2017. We're extremely worried about you. I will be flying out to Humboldt today to find you. Blank is not helping. Just says she's not with you. My dad was about to go all Liam Neeson on the weed farmers. Literally, the night they filed the missing police report with the sheriffs, I couldn't sleep and was tossing and turning for hours. And the next morning, I got up and told everyone I had to leave immediately. Just had a weird feeling, even though I hadn't been paid yet. When I got to cell service, I got an earful for good reason. Oh, I wonder if they ever actually paid her. I mean, geez, you got to stay for the bill. You know what I mean? Can't be doing all that work. Sore fingers. You probably got... Okay. So it was definitely sketch, but no people with meth addictions and knives. And I did end up getting paid and was able to make rent for a couple of months before I started doing Instagram ads after my social media blew up from The Bachelor. Well, good for her. So this is this is where it's at here. Just look, see what they're doing? They're just all like nonstop. Let's go back there for a second. Seem just nonstop clipping. They got the little shears. They're just, so it's the Lord's work, folks. So yeah, that's got to be pretty dank. I'm sure there are a lot of, they say in Humboldt County, as we'll see here, there's a lot of people that go missing up there. It's partly because of the drug trade and the war on drugs, but also because there's not much cell phone service and you are in the middle of nowhere, redwood country. But the story doesn't end there. After I got reported missing, we tried calling the sheriff's office multiple times and ended up leaving voicemails saying I had been found less than 24 hours after the report had been filed. We dumbly, I don't know if that's a word, assumed I had been taken off the list because we never heard back. A few months later, while The Bachelor was airing, this article got printed and I was on the list. Incidentally, I wasn't the only person on the list who wasn't still missing. There were 1 or 2 other people who had been found but remained on the missing list. I can totally see this happening. Having dealt with the police in Los Angeles, with my petty theft, dealing with my license plates and car batteries stolen, there's no getting back to you. There's just, you get put on hold, you leave a voicemail, someone on the other end. No, there's just, so the fact that she wasn't removed from the missing person list, not surprised at all. All right, let's wrap this story up. A Bachelor viewer just spotted Becca on a list of missing people in California. Someone recognized me from The Bachelor and the story blew up. Like seriously, blew up. It went international. But the facts were all effed up. Some people thought I lied to my mom and told her I was on a weed farm when I was really on The Bachelor. Yep. Well, the stories, very salacious stories here. Let's see. I'm not loading the next page. Let's see. Did I miss something here? That's her headshot. Sick hair, she says. Boy, if that doesn't look like a missing person report, she's got that, was it Julie Andrews haircut? One of my favorite sarcasm is a spoonful of sugar. One of my favorite sarcasm things was that my driver's license photo from 15 years old was plastered all over every news article. Oh, that was her when she was 15. Well, she looks so good, you can't tell the difference. She's got nice skin. I even made it on Jimmy Kimmel because of this story, but the actual story was so long and confusing that I just told all the media outlets that I had to go to my friend's weed farm to get away and relax after filming The Bachelor, and I didn't have service, and so my mom thought I was missing, so a lot of people thought I was an a-hole for that. Yeah, that's a good point. She conflated the story because she's like, it's too hard to tell, so let's just say I went up there to relax and do some yoga. But in return, she's just like a 21 or 22-year-old young adult trying to make a couple extra bucks, which, by the way, I'm sure her dad did she not say, is her dad, let's go back a little bit here. I want to go back to the dad's email. Joe D. Martinez. Oh, you know what? I read this and thought it said Dr. Martinez. So I was going to say, isn't her dad a doctor? Never mind. I was going to say, start a GoFundMe or something. I mean, working on a weed farm. Here's where I would be terrified to be a father. This is going to come off sexist. I understand that. But I'd be so terrified to be a dad and not know where your daughter is, even for a day at a time. Now, sure, you might not know where your son is, but your son's not a target for sexual assault, for all these different issues that could happen. Whereas, she's a good-looking young woman with no cell phone in weed country. Oh my gosh, I'm sure she was well taken care of, but your mind can start racing over that. Fun fact, Officially Quigley styled me for that interview. Oh, that's nice. Okay, she got styled by Officially Quigley. Very good there. So I'm grateful I'm alive and not missing. I'm hopeful the bear survived after running into the forest. Probably did. I'm sorry that my parents had to endure that horrible 24 hours, and I definitely never talked to that girl again. Yeah, that girl's a psycho. So that's the end of that. You know what? So they posted this on Reddit. Let's go to some comments. I said Becca reminds me of Ruth from Ozarks, and believe me, that's a huge compliment. Ruth runs that show. You guys remember Ruth from Ozarks? This is Becca right here. If you guys haven't seen Ozarks, what are you waiting for? It is such a good show. Ruth runs the show. I'm not saying any spoilers, but Becca reminds me of her in kind of a weird way. Who knew that Ozarks has their own wiki page? Ruth grew up in the Ozarks. She's a strong, smart young woman with ambitions above her lower station in life. She was born poor, and her father had been in jail since the beginning of the story. She lived in a trailer in the town outskirts of town. Her taste in music is classic to mid-90s rap and hip-hop, which she's often seen listening to on her iPod. And anyway, that's just my comparison. Who does Bekah Martinez remind you guys of? Does she have... this girl, she can hold her own with Jason Bateman and the other cast. A real wild show. Gotta love Ozarks, which is, of course, the mountain range. Is it a mountain range, or they're the lakes? But it's that range in Arkansas, I believe. And of course, they film it in Georgia, where it's I believe, a right-to-work state, which means they don't have to pay their employees as much. Gotta love capitalism. What are you doing, Georgia? Get the unions going. You got Tyler Perry over there making 15 movies a year, not paying them union wages. I digress. All right, so then there's Becca, of course. The stories came out. Oh, this is a different one. Sorry. A million stories here. Bachelor alum Bekah Martinez breastfeeds her daughter. Oh, boy, here come the pop-ups. The whole point is you can just Google her and pick one story after another where she's being uniquely eccentric, not, coloring outside the lines. While it's not crazy to breastfeed two of your kids at the same time, to normalize this life is a positive. To use her platform to normalize maybe working at a weed farm and talking about things that, would generally be reserved for the fringes of society. I mean, nationally speaking, there's still people that are so turned off by Bekah Martinez because she speaks her truth, and she's just very outspoken and liberal, and she's trying to overcome her traumas, and she's so young that even I was guilty of kind of judging her, being like, what do you know? You're only 21 at the time, and this and that. And of course, she's really coming to her own to share her platform. So a big shout out to her. And of course, did not work out with Ari Jr., but he's expecting, I believe, twins, right? The arrival of their second child. Oh, no, so she's got two kids. Ari's got kids with Lauren B., or the former Lauren B. But anyway, that's the story on her. And of course, if you don't know anything about Humboldt County, there's some really fascinating documentaries out there. Let's see if I can pull this off to the side here. there's a new one on Hulu about Bigfoot in Humboldt County. It doesn't exactly go in the direction I wanted it to go in, but it's still very fascinating. And then there's one on Netflix about the murders that happen in Humboldt County. I mean, there's a bunch of seedy old people, old-time farmers that are up there, very territorial. It's kind of like the Wild Wild West, where there's the war on drugs that's happening, but at the same time, there's just a lot of locals that are fighting the fight. And it's a very, very interesting. People don't realize this about California. They think California is one thing because of SoCal. If California were on the East Coast, it would run from Florida all the way up to Connecticut. You know what I mean? I don't fact check me on that, but the point is it's large. California is the 5th largest economy in the world. So it's such a large state. And having moved out here like 7 years ago, I just have begun to realize, from Tahoe to San Diego to the deserts to everything in between, the coastline, Pacific Coast Highway, it's a very large state. And Humboldt County, while I've been up there and don't know too much about it, there are some sketchy people up there doing their thing. So she knew with only 6 days there, like, hey, maybe it's time to leave. So why does Humboldt County have the highest rate of missing persons report in the state? There's a lot of reasons, but there have been some murders up there. You'll see in the documentaries, but also, I feel like a lot of people go up there that are wandering souls, kindred spirits, wayfaring strangers. And because of that, they're probably already missing before they got there. So who knows? Who knows, folks? And then what's this final article? Here's how the Bachelor's Becca ended up on a missing persons list. I guess we already covered that story. Oh, geez, I'm already at 21 minutes. So that's my love for Bekah Martinez. I have to give it to her. I've changed my tune on Becca. Not to say I was ever a major hater, but I will say this, and I could tell Becca this if I ever spoke with her, that the thing that I kind of was always sort of, the thing where I didn't see eye to eye with her is sort of her slam culture, where like she'll find someone who said something and slam them for it, and she'll kind of use her platform in a way that was, and again, it's not always this case, just in the times that I've seen it, where it's kind of like, you did this, and she'd make a good lawyer because she's good at like picking apart what people have said and done, and sort of showing them what's messed up about that. But I think she's actually come into more of a place where she understands, like, she's posted things and people have come after her. So I think she understands there's a nuance and that people mean well and they don't always live up to the high expectations that the internet sets for people. But I think it's okay to not live up to people's expectations and say, oh, here's where I learned where I went wrong. Let's try to do better. Can't we all try for that? So anyway, shout out to Ruth from Ozarks. And where did Ruth from Ozarks go? That's my who Becca is. Leave a comment and let me know if there's a different character I'm missing here that reminds you of Bekah Martinez. But that'll be it for me. I've got plenty of videos coming for the rest of the day. And if you haven't subscribed already, there's a link below in the pinned comments where you can subscribe to my newsletter. It's free. And I will see you guys later on. Bye now.